Good evening and welcome to Just the News. I'm Faye D'Souza. Thank you for joining us. This is where we give you all the news that's happened in the last 24 hours from India and from around the world as quickly as possible. So let's get straight to it. Our first headline, though, is an unfortunate one. There's been a major landslide that's taken place in the state of Himachal Pradesh. At least 10 people have now been confirmed dead and dozens are trapped under the debris. There's one bus carrying 40 passengers which was on its way from Rekongpyo to Shimla. 30 of those people are feared buried under the debris right now. Deputy Commissioner of Kinnaur has told PTI that several vehicles, including one Himachal Road Transport Corporation bus, are currently buried under the debris. Teams of the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, the NDRF, the CISF and the police are at the spot conducting rescue operations. The accident took place 210 kilometers from the state capital of Shimla and 60 kilometers from the district headquarters of Rekongpyo on the National Highway 5. This is as much information as we have right now. We will update you with fresh information tomorrow when we get it. And on to our updates from Parliament. The central government yesterday told Parliament in a written reply that there are no people anywhere in the country who are employed or engaged as manual scavengers. And this is odd because it's only days after the Union Social Justice Minister Virendra Kumar told Rajya Sabha last week that there are 58,098 manual scavengers that have been identified across the country in two separate surveys in 2013 and 2018. And oddly enough, this week, the central government has told Parliament that there are no manual scavengers anywhere in the country. This was in response to a question asked by CPI Member of Parliament Venkateshan. The central government added that there are some voluntary organizations that claim there are people engaged in manual scavenging, but they've been unable to substantiate that information. On Tuesday, the government also said that no deaths have been reported anywhere in the country because of manual scavenging, but 309 deaths have been reported in the last 5 years because of hazardous cleaning of sewers and septic tanks. And that is really a technical difference between those two things. The government has differentiated in the deaths, classifying them as cleaning of sewers and septic tanks, but most experts maintain that this is just an extension of manual scavenging, which is when a human being is asked to clean up human waste with their bare hands and without any protective equipment. Rajya Sabha today passed the Constitution Amendment Bill to restore powers to state governments to have their own lists of OBCs for reservations of jobs and education institutions. While moving the Constitution 127th Amendment Bill 2021, the Social Justice and Empowerment Minister Virendra Kumar said the bill will help restore powers of state governments to have their own list of other backward classes, which was negated by the Supreme Court. So basically, the Supreme Court passed a judgment saying that only the central government can make a list and notify OBCs. The Parliament has now passed a law allowing state governments to restoring the state government's rights to do so. The House also cleared in the Rajya Sabha the General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021. This bill basically allows the government to reduce its stake in nationalized insurance companies and basically sell the stake in the stock market and raise money and meet its disinvestment targets. Lok Sabha was adjourned today, bringing an end to the stormy monsoon session, and this is an early end because there was no reconvening time that was actually announced, which means that it was adjourned, what is called sine die. The Lok Sabha functioned for only 21 out of the 96 stipulated hours during the entire monsoon session for this year. Productivity was at 22%, which is fairly low. The session began on the 19th of July, you'll remember. Opposition has been protesting continuously, asking for a debate on the Pegasus row and on the handling of COVID and on the farm laws. But there was really an impasse. But in the meantime, the government did manage to pass a large number of bills through both houses of parliament, even during this session, because the government has the numbers and the ability to pass bills, even if the opposition continues to protest. You'll also remember that because of COVID, the previous two sessions in the last 1 year were cancelled and one session was abridged. There was also an election going on in the winter session, so it was the budget session was a shorter session. The other two sessions were in fact cancelled. So Parliament has not really functioned over the last 1 year. We haven't really had a chance to discuss or get accountability on COVID, on the handling of the oxygen crisis, on whether the farm bills that was passed in the monsoon session last year have not been debated, and of course now the Pegasus row, which is what the opposition was protesting against. According to the Joint Secretary of the Union Health Ministry, Love Agarwal, in a press conference, only one state in the entire country has reported one suspected death due to the shortage of oxygen during the COVID wave earlier this year. He did not mention the name of the state. In a press conference, Mr. Agarwal said, and I quote, "States were asked if there have been any oxygen-related deaths when the question was raised in Parliament. States were specifically asked this question. According to reports that we've got till now, one state has referred to one suspected case. Other states have not said if there were any oxygen-related deaths." End quote. Remember, according to a report, at least in the Wire, there were 178 oxygen-related deaths across India, specifically in our capital city of Delhi, where people died in hospitals when they ran out of oxygen, but the government seems to have failed to actually find data on that matter. The Delhi High Court on Wednesday has issued notice to journalist Priya Ramani in an appeal filed by former Union Minister MJ Akbar against her. Now, there was a trial court in which Ms. Ramani was acquitted in a defamation case filed by Akbar. Ms. Ramani had accused MJ Akbar of sexual harassment during the Me Too movement when it had gained momentum in India. She was then backed by over 20 very senior female journalists who also accused MJ Akbar of sexual harassment during their working period with him. He then, of course, for some reason, filed a defamation case only against Ramani in 2018, saying that she basically defamed him with her tweets and her articles published in print media. The case went on for 2 years after the judge decided to actually dismiss all charges against Priya Ramani in February this year. Now we know that MJ Akbar has approached now the Delhi High Court in an appeal in the same matter. The next case hearing is on the 13th of January. According to the Indian Express, the NCPCR, which is the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, has conducted a nationwide assessment of minority schools in the country and has recommended that the government bring all minority-run schools, including madrasas, under the right to education. The NCPCR has also backed reservations for students from minority communities in such schools after the survey found that a large portion of non-minority students are studying in these schools. The NCPCR chairperson told the Indian Express, and I quote, "We have looked into minority institutions per se and madrasas in particular. We have some startling findings, including that 74% of students studying in Christian missionary schools do not belong to the Christian community. Many schools we know have registered as minority institutions simply because they don't have to implement the RTE, which is the right to education." The report also found that only 8% of the total 4.8 crore children of minority communities attend minority community schools, and that 37% of the students in these schools are from non-minority communities. So this is the hard work and the recommendation of the NCPCR. Remember, the NCPCR is also meant to look after the rights of children. It has not said anything about the fact that scores of children across the country simply have had no access to education for over a year and a half since schools were shut down because of the lockdown, because they have no access to either electricity or devices or the internet. It has also, remember, this is the same government that in Parliament said it has absolutely no data on whether there has been an increase in the number of child abuse cases since the lockdown began. A worldwide trend that has been noticed is that child abuse has increased during lockdowns because children aren't able to go to school and they're trapped in families with abusive family members. But our NCPCR found no evidence to that. But they have, of course, been looking into madrasas. Moving on, during a virtual conference at the CII's annual meet, the Prime Minister today addressed the CII, which is a consortium of Indian industry, and made a statement about the Indian economy. He said the Indian economy is picking up pace once again and that there is newfound confidence in Made in India initiatives. The Prime Minister said, and I quote, that There was a time when we thought whatever was foreign was better. That is fast changing. We now want products made in India. This is a big shot in the arm of the Atmanirbhar initiative. The other thing which is important right now is our confidence, which we also saw in our performance in the Olympics. End quote. He added that this new India is ready and committed to growing with the new world. India, which was once apprehensive of foreign investment, is today welcoming all types of investment. India is taking major leaps. It is the result of the country's faith in our industry that today the ease of doing business and the ease of living is increasing. Changes made in the Companies Act are an example of this. End quote. On to quick updates right now on COVID. India reported 38,353 new COVID cases, 497 deaths in the last 24 hours. New COVID cases have jumped 36% from yesterday. We're going to continue to keep an eye on that. The 6-member central team that was sent from the central government to take stock of the situation in Kerala has observed the state may see 4.6 lakh cases between the 1st of August and the 20th of August if it's not careful. The NCDC director, Dr. Sujit Singh, has said unlocking activities, reopening of tourism, and the upcoming Onam festival, which is on the 20th of August, is a cause for concern. Kerala reported 23,500 new cases in the last 24 hours. Kerala has also announced that there will be no public observation of festivals or mass gatherings permitted during Onam, Muharram, Janmashtami, Ganesh Chaturthi, and Durga Puja in the state. Further, a special intensified stringent lockdown restrictions will be enforced in panchayats and urban wards where the weekly infection population ratio is fairly high. The DCGI, or the Drugs Controller General of India, has given its go-ahead for a study of mixing Bharat Biotech and AstraZeneca's Covishield and Covaxin vaccines in India. The study will be conducted by CMC Vellore, the Christian Medical College, and will involve a clinical trial covering 300 healthy volunteers. This is a different study from the one that was recently conducted by the ICMR. Himachal Pradesh has announced a closure of all schools except residential schools in the state until the 22nd of August because of a surge in COVID cases. Schools had reopened, remember, on the 2nd of August. Teachers will continue to come to school, we understand. Himachal Pradesh reported 419 COVID cases and 2 deaths in the last 24 hours. An update from the world of business and economy. According to PTI, the BSE's India International Exchange on Tuesday will start to facilitate buying and selling of shares from foreign stocks, including US-listed companies, through its platform. In the statement, the INX, which is the Indian International Exchange, has said that it proposes to offer stocks from US, Canada, UK, Europe, Australia, and Japan, covering about 80% of the investing universe. The exchange will roll out the functional details and the terms and specifications of products and will soon launch trading in international stocks. Also, news coming in right now from across the world. According to Afghan officials, the Taliban have now seized 3 more provincial capitals in Afghanistan and a local army headquarters. The Taliban now controls 2/3 of Afghanistan as the US and the NATO forces are in their final stage of withdrawal. Meantime, Afghanistan's acting finance minister has resigned and left the country after the Taliban captured key customs. According to Bloomberg, the spokesperson of the finance ministry has said Mr. Khalid Pendia has resigned and left the country because Afghanistan is grappling with declined revenues after the takeover of custom posts by the Taliban. According to Al Jazeera, a new US intelligence assessment says Afghanistan's capital could fall in the next 90 days after the Taliban armed group took over more than a quarter of the country's provincial capitals in less than a week. The UN has been warning repeatedly that there is a terrible toll that has been taken on citizens and children who have died in the fighting in Afghanistan. Of course, there is the worst fate now for women if the Taliban take control of Afghanistan again. In Thailand, the police fired tear gas and rubber bullets and water cannons to disperse protesters who took to the streets in Bangkok yesterday to demonstrate against the government's failure to handle the pandemic. At least 6 police officers were injured in the clashes. Last weekend, more than 1,000 anti-government protesters clashed with the police. Thailand has reported 19,843 new COVID cases, 235 deaths just yesterday. 6.6% of the population, I beg your pardon, is fully vaccinated. An update from the world of sports right now before we let you go. Indian compound archery girls and mixed team on Tuesday broke a under-18 world record during their ranking round at the World Youth Championships in Poland. The girls team of Priya Gujjar, Praneeth Kaur and Ritu Senthil Kumar scored 2,067 points, 22 more than the previous record. Indian wrestler Vinesh Phogat has been temporarily suspended by the Wrestling Federation of India for indiscipline. The federation has issued a notice to her on 3 counts and she has time until the 16th of August to reply. This comes after she allegedly did not stay at the Olympics village. After she crashed out of the Olympics, she refused to wear the prescribed wrestling jersey with the team's sponsor logo on it and competed in a jersey with the personal sponsor logo of Nike, which according to the Wrestling Federation of India were in violation of several rules. Rafael Nadal has withdrawn from the Masters 1000 hardcourt event underway in Toronto due to persistent pain in his injured left foot. He had also withdrawn from the Tokyo Olympics and Wimbledon because of the same injury. One piece of positive news or interesting news before we let you go for the day. 15-year-old Soumya Ranjan Sahu from Odisha has won allocates from the government of Liberia after he helped them nab a hacker. He apparently caught a malicious hacker who had hacked into the official website of the Ministry of Finance and Development of the Liberian government. The self-proclaimed ethical hacker, Soumya also teaches other young people about cyber security. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for listening. Leave us a word of encouragement. That always helps. And join us tomorrow for a fresh edition of Just the News. Good night.